stop of the Richardsonian train station. We're going around the city block that forms it, and there used to be things that belonged to the city environment and structures that were made just because there was a lot of business from railroad people coming in, and like businessmen getting off, needing to have a place to stay, needing restaurants, needing movie theaters. And so we'll talk about the first, this building here, one of 13 of Gilbert Potvin's buildings all in a row. He would go in a line on this street, which is Lyman Street, on a short bit on Grover Street, and then over on a street that's not there anymore called Potvin Street, and then over onto Canal Street. 13 of these buildings all in a row. And believe it or not, only one still functional. But we're going to point to one that's not functioning anymore to point out, you see the two wooden structures upwards. On the first floor you have a window, on the upper floor you have a wooden structures. Those used to be walkways. Now if you look at those very carefully, below the windows it's new brick. And at some point they changed over and it was no longer a walkway. So the whole buildings were built in 1880, and the walkways were from 1880 to 1895, and you can still see evidence of the walkways. They were on the second floor to the second floor of the building next to it that's not there anymore, and also on the third floor to the third floor of the building not there. There were 13 walkways between the 13 buildings, and they'd go curved around gracefully all around. What a way to do it. All built by one construction firm, the Gilbert Pottvin Construction. He probably did 200 different buildings like this throughout Holyoke, and these are 13 of them, but only one fully still function. So we're going to look at a lot of things here. The next thing to look out for, very close to the train station, is this masonry wall. It used to have a walkway, steps going up along one side, and it's not functional steps anymore, but the masonry, which is mostly granite, is very beautiful, and it very much like the appearance of the train station itself. The next thing we're going to look at is not there anymore, but remember I told you, here's an empty lot. It used to be a hotel. It had during its lifetime 2 different names. From the beginning in the 1880s, it grew from the hotel into a hotel called American Hotel, and it functioned as a men's, mostly a men's, but also if women wanted to go to it. Now the next one to replace it,
hold on, let me pause it.
to replace it was another hotel, but the same hotel, they just put a new name on it. It was called the Lennox Stag Hotel. Lennox Stag Hotel means that only men could come inside of it, ever. It's not that a man could get the room and then bring a woman in. You can only allow men into it. And the reason why, they wanted to keep their functionality level very high, and that means no woman, which means no trouble would happen at the hotel, because lots of very high-level businessmen would come here. And behind it, from 1915 into the late 1930s, was a theater, a movie theater, where they played movies. For about 23 years it existed, and it was called the 3-Star Movie Theater. And it was mostly for the visitors that were going to the theaters and the railroad and so forth. Okay, and the last thing to point out on this step is down this Lyman Street, you have the Hadley Falls worker homes. 5 of the 6 complexes are still in place, which is wonderful. So you have some functional things here and some things that were definitely made just for the railroad people. Thanks for coming to this stop.